Oh my God, you guys, I cannot believe what just happened. I just went through Australia's brand new visa process from start to finish, and what I experienced was absolutely insane. I'm talking about completely unexpected requirements, hidden costs nobody warned me about, and a twist at the end that literally made me question everything. If you're planning to apply for an Australian visa in 2025, you need to watch this entire video because what happened to me could happen to you, and I'm going to show you exactly how to avoid the mistakes I made. This is not clickbait, this is real, and I have all the proof right here. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because I document my entire immigration journey to Australia with zero filters. Today's video is different though. For the past 3 months, I've been going through Australia's completely overhauled visa application process. I'm talking about the new system that launched this year with all the changes nobody really explained properly. I decided to document everything, every step, every document, every moment of confusion, every surprise, and I'm going to share it all with you right now. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the new process is really like, not what the government website says, but what actually happens in real life. You'll see the good, the bad, and the absolutely shocking. So grab your notebook, because you're going to want to take notes. Let's dive into day 1 of this wild journey. Day 1 started with me sitting at my computer, coffee in hand, ready to begin my visa application. I'd done my research, watched countless YouTube videos, read blog posts, talked to migration agents. I thought I was prepared. The first shock came within literally 5 minutes. The new IMI account system that Australia launched looks completely different from what everyone had been showing in tutorials. All those step-by-step guides from 6 months ago? Completely useless. The interface had changed, the navigation was different, even the terminology was updated. I immediately realized I was going into this semi-blind. Here's what I learned in that first session. The new system requires you to create a more detailed profile before you even start your actual application. They want information about your education history, your complete work history, every country you've lived in for more than 6 months, your family members even if they're not migrating with you, and they cross-reference everything. I spent 3 hours just filling out the preliminary profile, and I hadn't even selected my visa type yet. This was exhausting, and I'd barely started. Then came the first major surprise. The system now requires you to upload a digital photo and signature before proceeding, and they're incredibly specific about the requirements. Your photo needs to be taken within the last 6 months. It needs to meet exact size specifications in pixels. The file size needs to be within a specific range. Your head needs to be positioned exactly right. Plain white background, no shadows, neutral expression. I took 17 attempts to get a photo that the system accepted. 17! Each time it rejected my photo, it gave me a slightly different error message. Too bright, too dark, head too close, head too far, file size too large, wrong format. It was maddening. Pro tip I learned the hard way. Use the photo tool on the IMI account website itself. Don't try to take a photo on your phone and upload it. The website has a tool that accesses your webcam and guides you through taking the photo with the exact specifications they want. I wasted 2 hours taking photos on my phone before discovering this tool. Use the tool, save yourself the frustration. Once I used their webcam tool, my photo was accepted on the first try. Why they don't make this more obvious, I have no idea. Day 5, and I was now into the actual visa application. I was applying for a skilled visa through state nomination, and the first step was selecting my occupation from the list. This is where things got really interesting. My occupation, which had been on the list when I started preparing my application 2 months earlier, was now in a different category with different requirements. The occupation lists had been updated mid-process for me, and suddenly I needed additional evidence I hadn't prepared. Specifically, they now wanted a more detailed skills assessment with specific project descriptions and outcomes. I had to pause my application and go back to my Skills Assessment Authority to request a supplementary assessment with the additional information. This cost me an extra $500 and added 3 weeks to my timeline. 3 weeks. And here's the thing, there was no notification that the list had changed. If I hadn't been checking regularly, I would have submitted my application with insufficient documentation and gotten rejected. Lesson learned. Check the occupation lists and requirements multiple times throughout your application process, not just at the beginning. Week 3, and I was gathering documents. Oh my God, the documents. The new system is so specific about what they want, and the list is longer than ever before. I needed police clearances from every country I'd lived in for more than 12 months since turning 16. I'd lived in 3 countries, so that's 3 separate police clearance applications, each with their own process, timeframes, and costs. One country required me to apply through their embassy with notarized documents. Another required fingerprints taken at an approved location. The third required me to mail my application with original documents. It was a logistical nightmare. Then there were the health examinations. The new process requires you to complete health exams before submitting your application in most cases. You can't just submit and then do the medical later. You have to use a panel physician approved by Australia, and let me tell you, getting an appointment was harder than I expected. The closest panel physician to me was booked out for 6 weeks. 6 weeks! And the examination itself was thorough. Chest X-ray, blood tests, physical examination, vaccination records, medical history going back years. The whole appointment took almost 3 hours and cost me $400 that insurance didn't cover. Here's something nobody tells you about the medical examination. If you've ever had any significant health condition, even if it was years ago and fully resolved, you need documentation from your doctor explaining it. I had a minor surgery 5 years ago, completely unrelated to anything serious, but it showed up in my medical history. The panel physician required me to get a letter from my surgeon explaining the procedure, the outcome, and confirming I was fully recovered with no ongoing issues. This added another week to my timeline while I tracked down those records. Week 5 brought the most stressful part of the entire process: the financial documents. Australia wants to see evidence that you have sufficient funds to support yourself when you arrive. The new requirements are much more detailed than before. They don't just want to see bank statements showing you have money. They want to see where that money came from. For real. They want to see your salary deposits. They want explanations for any large transfers. They want documentation for any gifts from family members. They want proof that the funds are genuinely yours and available. I had to provide 6 months of bank statements with annotations explaining every significant transaction. 1 month, I'd received a $5,000 tax refund, and they wanted to see my tax return to verify it. Another month, I'd transferred money between my own accounts, and they wanted proof that both accounts were mine. My parents had given me some money to help with settling costs, and they required a statutory declaration from my parents confirming it was a gift, not a loan, plus evidence of where my parents got that money from. The level of scrutiny was intense. Here's a critical mistake I almost made that could have derailed everything. I had been saving money in cash at home, old school style, and had about $3,000 that I deposited into my account to show higher available funds. Big mistake. That deposit triggered a red flag in my application because it was a large cash deposit with no clear source. I had to write a detailed explanation that the money was my own savings accumulated over time, and I genuinely don't think they fully believed me. It created doubt. Learn from my mistake. Do not make any unusual financial transactions in the 6 months before you apply. Keep your finances clean and straightforward with clear documentation for everything. Week 7 was when I encountered the most shocking part of this entire process, and this is what I really need you to understand. I received a request for additional information from the case officer. Now, getting a request for more information is normal, but what they asked for was not normal at all. They wanted a detailed statement explaining my exact plans for the first 6 months in Australia. Not just, I plan to find work in my field. They wanted specific details. Which cities was I considering? What research had I done on the job market? Did I have any job interviews lined up? What was my backup plan if I didn't find work immediately? How much money would I allocate for rent, food, transport, other expenses? What community connections did I have in Australia? I had to write a 3-page statement with actual research and planning. I looked up job boards and cited specific positions I was qualified for. I researched neighborhoods and mentioned specific suburbs I was considering based on affordability and proximity to employment hubs. I mentioned professional associations I planned to join. I talked about how I would network and build connections. This wasn't just a formality. They genuinely wanted to see that I had done serious planning and wasn't just hoping things would work out when I landed. It took me 5 days to compile this statement properly with all the supporting research. But here's where it gets even crazier. After I submitted that detailed statement, they came back with follow-up questions. Specific questions about things I'd mentioned in the statement. They asked why I'd chosen specific suburbs, what my understanding was of the rental market in those areas, how I'd determined the budget I'd outlined. It felt less like a visa application and more like a business plan presentation. I later learned from my migration agent that this level of scrutiny is the new normal. Australia is actively filtering for people who have genuinely thought through their migration and have realistic plans, versus people who are just hoping to get in. Week 9 brought another surprise cost. My skills assessment, which I thought was finalized, needed to be updated because more than 6 months had passed since it was issued. My visa application had taken longer than expected due to all the document gathering, and now my skills assessment was considered outdated. I had to pay for a renewal, another $300, and wait another 2 weeks for the updated assessment to be issued. Nobody had warned me about expiration dates on supporting documents. Lesson learned. Be aware of validity periods on all your documents and time your application accordingly. Then there was the English language test drama. I had taken my IELTS test 8 months before starting my visa application, thinking I was ahead of the game. But by the time I submitted my application, my test was approaching the 2-year validity mark. The case officer noted this and said that if the application wasn't finalized before my English test expired, I would need to take a new test. The pressure was on. I was constantly checking the application status, praying it would be approved before I had to spend another $300 and countless hours preparing for another English test. Spoiler alert, I made it with 3 weeks to spare, but the stress was real. Week 11, and I started seeing movement on my application. The status changed from received to in progress, and then to under assessment. Each status change sent my heart racing. Was this good? Was this bad? What were they assessing? The lack of transparency in the process is genuinely one of the hardest parts. You're left checking your IME account multiple times a day, refreshing obsessively, looking for any update. It's mentally exhausting, and there's no one to call and ask about progress. The Department of Home Affairs basically says, "Wait and we'll contact you if we need anything." During this waiting period, I discovered something that would have saved me so much stress if I'd known earlier. There are online communities and forums where people going through the same visa process share their experiences and timelines. I found a forum specific to my visa subclass where people posted when they applied, when they got requests for information, and when they received their grants. Seeing other people's timelines helped me gauge where I was in the process and whether my timeline was normal or delayed. I wish I'd found these communities earlier because the shared knowledge and support were invaluable. Week 13 brought the moment I'd been both anticipating and dreading. I received an email from the Department of Home Affairs. My heart was pounding as I logged into my IME account. This was it. After 3 months of stress, documents, expenses, and uncertainty, I was about to find out if it had all been worth it. I clicked on the message, and there it was. Visa grant notification. I'd been approved. I cannot describe the wave of relief and excitement that hit me. All the frustration, all the costs, all the sleepless nights, it had worked. I was going to Australia. But the grant letter came with important information I needed to act on immediately. I had a specific date by which I needed to make my first entry into Australia to validate the visa. If I didn't enter by that date, the visa would be cancelled. I also needed to ensure I maintained adequate health insurance from the moment I arrived. The letter outlined all my visa conditions clearly, and I had to read them multiple times to make sure I understood every obligation. This is not the time to misunderstand something and accidentally breach your visa conditions. Now let's talk about the costs, because this is something people drastically underestimate. My visa application fee was $4,115. Skills assessment and renewal, $800 total. English language test, $390. Police clearances from 3 countries, $420. Health examination, $400. Document translations and certifications, $270. Migration agent consultation fees for specific questions, $500. Miscellaneous costs like passport photos, courier fees, notary services, another $200. My total out-of-pocket cost was over $7,000. $7,000, and that's before I even bought a plane ticket or paid for accommodation in Australia. Here's what I wish someone had told me before I started this process. First, start your document gathering earlier than you think you need to. Some documents take weeks or months to obtain, and you don't want to be waiting on a police clearance from another country while everything else is ready. Second, keep digital and physical copies of everything. Scan every document, save every email, screenshot every important page. You will need to reference things multiple times, and you don't want to be searching frantically. Third, maintain a spreadsheet tracking every requirement, every document, every deadline. This saved me multiple times from forgetting something critical. Fourth, budget at least 50% more than you initially think you'll need for the entire process. Unexpected costs will come up. Documents need to be renewed. You might need professional translations. There are always surprise expenses. Fifth, protect your mental health through this process. It is stressful, it is long, and there will be moments of doubt and frustration. Talk to people who've been through it. Take breaks from obsessively checking your application, and remember that most applications do eventually get approved if you meet the requirements. Sixth, use official government resources and be very careful about advice from unofficial sources. Immigration law changes frequently, and outdated information can lead you astray. Looking back on this entire experience, would I do it again? Absolutely yes. Was it harder than I expected? 100% yes. The new visa process is more thorough, more demanding, and more time-consuming than the old system. But here's the thing. Australia is doing this for a reason. They want people who are genuinely committed, who have real skills to contribute, who have thought through their plans seriously. If you're willing to put in the work, be thorough with your application and stay patient through the process, you can get through it successfully. The most important piece of advice I can give you is this. Be honest and be thorough. Don't cut corners. Don't try to hide anything. Don't submit incomplete applications hoping to fix things later. The case officers are trained to spot inconsistencies and red flags. A complete, honest, well-documented application might take longer to prepare, but it has a much higher chance of being approved smoothly. My application was approved without any major issues, specifically because I took the time to do everything properly, even when it was frustrating and time-consuming. So, there you have it, my complete, unfiltered experience with Australia's new visa process from start to finish. 3 months, $7,000, countless documents, and 1 successful visa grant. If you're about to go through this process yourself, I hope this video has given you a realistic picture of what to expect and how to prepare. It's not easy, but it is absolutely achievable. If this video helped you, please smash that like button right now. It helps more people find this information when they're starting their own visa journey. Subscribe to the channel because I'll be documenting every step of my actual move to Australia, finding housing, finding work, settling in, all of it. Drop a comment below and tell me where you are in your visa process or what questions you have. I read every comment and I'll respond with any advice I can offer based on my experience. If you know someone planning to apply for an Australian visa, share this video with them because they need to know what they're getting into. This is real talk, real experience, no sugarcoating. The visa process is tough, but the reward of living in Australia makes it worth it. I'll see you in the next video where I show you my first week in Australia and all the challenges of actually settling in a new country. Until then, stay focused on your goal, stay organized with your application, and don't give up when it gets hard. You've got this, and I'm rooting for you. See you soon.